Hello everybody, Caleb back here again today, and we are covering the topic I've been going over since I began playing these two games. Which one is better, Garten of BanBan or Poppy Playtime? Well, in today's video, I'm going to go over Chapter 1 of each game, and go over what each chapter does right, and what each chapter does wrong. And yes, I will have another video later this week, specifically going out on Saturday, that will go over Chapter 2 of each game, and after that video, and all the deliberation and everything, we will get to the big answer. Which game is better? So, let's jump right into it, and real quick, if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button. So many of you guys are new to the channel, so if you guys want to see more content from me, then make sure to subscribe and turn on those bell notifications. It helps me out more than you guys can know, and I'll appreciate you guys more than anything. Well, I already do. But, let's start with getting into Garten of BanBan Chapter 1. Now, this is a very simple chapter. You start off by getting a remote, and getting the drone. You do have to find some batteries which aren't too hard to locate, and you're immediately thrown at the first button puzzle. You then go through the door seeing Opila Bird before she goes back into the darkness hiding, go through a couple rooms, turn on the lights, and after doing some more drone puzzles in the Opila Bird section and collecting some eggs, you then go through, get a hammer, go through a room that has an abyss in the middle of it, push another button, go on the lift, go to the other side, do another puzzle where you have to guess each character's color, and if you get all of them right, it opens a door, which gives you the orange keycard, and then the hype moment of the chapter is after you collect the orange keycard, you hear the lift being activated, which you see Opila Bird coming to your way. The second Opila Bird gets off the lift, you have to keep an eye on Opila Bird. As the button activates, you press the button with your drone, which brings a floor panel. You go across the floor panel as Opila Bird is right behind you, and then you press a button which will drop Opila Bird into the abyss and to her death. And then you finally go through, open the orange door, press the button under the desk, it's a little hard to find, go down another lift, and then you are interrupted by Jumbo Josh as you're going down, and that ends Chapter 1 of Garten of BanBan. Really, really quick chapter. Really, really quick game. Now, here's what the chapter does well, at least. I did like the potential of a chase sequence with the Opila Bird section, as you don't expect it. You know Opila Bird's going to come, but you don't expect the fact that the second you grab that orange key card, that Opila Bird's going to be on the way. I more expected it to be after we collected the orange key card, and we'd have some crazy chase sequence that got us lower in the place, kind of like how Poppy Playtime did it. But that's not how that works. Opila Bird just comes on over, and it kind of catches you off guard at first. However, it is a little easy to get through that. I got through it my first time, and I didn't have it be too much of difficulty, though I do like the potential of certain mechanics. Now, what did Garten of BanBan do wrong, in my opinion? Well, first off, the puzzles. When it comes to a puzzle game, which Garten of BanBan and Poppy Playtime is, they're puzzle games with horror aspects. They're not horror games, they're puzzle games with horror aspects. That's what both these games are, hence why I'm comparing these two. And when it comes to this, with this specific mindset with it, the puzzles in Garten of BanBan are a little lacking when it comes to just being a drone pressing buttons. Now, talking about the drone, as that seems to be Garten of BanBan's main gimmick of their game, as in, this is our difference maker, I'm not a huge fan of the drone. I think it's extremely slow and at times just unreliable. And they try to do certain things, like with the yellow stained glass, that tries to give it that uniqueness to it, of you can't just go straight through this, you have to find a way around it. But it's not difficult to find your way around it as long as you know what you're doing. This game is not too difficult, however, it does have potential, and if it can capitalize off the potential and make everything better, then it has potential to do well in a Chapter 2. So, it does some things right, it does a lot more wrong than right, plus the game itself is just way too short. Yes, it's free, but it is just way too short, as I know it's a concept type thing, but if you're trying to get people into it, when the fact that you could probably play this game again and beat it within 5 minutes, that's not a great thing to have going for you. So this game has a lot more, as in, I don't know what to expect going to the next thing, and I'm not too excited to play the next one because there's not too much hype that I'm getting at the end of this one. Even the Jumbo Josh ending, when you have an ending like that, you would expect, like, holy crap, what's going on? But that doesn't really do it for me. So, Garten of BanBan already starting off slow, but if they can capitalize in Chapter 2, then it has a ton of potential. And, I don't know, the lore as well, when it comes to these games recently, especially with indie horror, lore is a huge thing, and besides a couple of passports, the plane ticket, and then some things written on a whiteboard, there isn't a lot of lore to really dive into in this one besides where are the kids. However, that's only explored in the first, 5 seconds of the game, and it's never touched back on for the rest of it. So, that's Chapter 1 of Garten of BanBan, and it leaves kind of a sour taste in my mouth. So, we'll have to wait to see what happens with Chapter 2 when it comes down to that video. But, let's move on to Poppy Playtime. So, Poppy Playtime Chapter 1 starts off relatively interesting. You immediately jump in and you see a VHS tape that kind of introduces you to the factory and introduces you to the Poppy Playtime doll, which is very interesting and immediately hooks you into what's going on here. Then you cut to a little screen that says, "We're still here, come and find us, find the flower." So now you know what your objective is, and you know a little bit of history. You immediately go in, play another VHS tape that says, "Hey, you're trespassing, and we have some other security measurements besides just calling the police," which alludes to the fact that there's probably something sinister lurking around the corner. Then you get the first puzzle of the game, which I did like this first puzzle. It was a little complicated, but looking back at it, it's also really creative. You have to go into the room with all the toys in it and look at the color of the train carts in order, and that's how you solve the color puzzle. After solving the color puzzle, you are then introduced to the grab pack. Now, I talked about the drone in the last game. The grab pack is really, really done well here. It's quick, it's efficient, and it doesn't lag behind. And honestly, it's a fun thing to play with, and I really enjoyed, doing things with it. You then continue on forward, opening that first door by using the blue hand of the grab pack, and you are immediately introduced to the game's main antagonist, being Huggy Wuggy. And he's menacing. And he's menacing in a way of, he doesn't look scary, but you know he's up to something just by looking at him, and you don't know what he's up to, though. And that's the menacing factor. You know eventually he's going to be coming after you. It's a matter of when and where. So, after completing another little bit of a puzzle and getting a key from Huggy, you then go through the door and go to your first electricity puzzle, which now I will address the electricity puzzles in Poppy Playtime. I am not a huge fan of the electricity puzzles. I feel like they are done a little poorly in this first chapter, at least. I feel like there's a ton more things besides just getting power and going around a couple Tesla coils, but that's just me. But after you do complete this first puzzle, you go back to the main room, and lo and behold, your worst fear has come to fruition, and that's the fact that Huggy Wuggy is gone. He's nowhere to be found, and you're immediately filled with dread. You then go through another hallway where you do see his arm creep into a door. You go through that door, you get a little steam jump scare, and as you go through that, you are then introduced to a warehouse type space where you have to go through and find some batteries, which the batteries are hidden around and scattered around. Not too interesting puzzle, not too much going on here. You collect the batteries. After you collect the batteries, you activate the claw, which grabs you your red hands to complete your grab pack. After using the red and blue hands to open the doors into the vents, you go through the vents, which then shoots you out into the toy factory or the toy maker, where then you have to do another electricity puzzle, which this one's a little bit more tricky than the first one, though I still was not a huge fan of it. Then you do have a fun part for me, which was making the toy itself, which you make the cat Bumblebee. I don't know the official name, so forgive me for that. And after creating it, you throw the toy into a slot, which looks like you're going to be able to escape the factory and move on to the next part, except for you're interrupted by Huggy Wuggy. And he looks far more menacing, this time in the scarier sense, and all of a sudden alarms start going off, and this is where this game's chase sequence begins, where you have to jump into a very tight and concealed vent and run away from Huggy Wuggy tight through, and the whole entire time, Huggy's coming from different directions at you. Once you do escape the vent, you have to pull down a box, which leads Huggy Wuggy to his ultimate demise, and you get rid of Huggy Wuggy, which you do perfectly. You then go through everything and find a VHS tape, play that VHS tape, and it delves into a little bit more lore of the game, talking about Experiment 1006, which looks like to be a metal claw of like a hand. It's really interesting. And then you see the poppy flower, where you go through that door, you go through the corridor there, and you run into the case. And because this game needs a sequel, you open the case and run into Miss Poppy Playtime herself and open her case. And that closes out Chapter 1. Now, I already went into some of the negatives I feel about Chapter 1, which is the electricity puzzles and the laziness of certain things. Also, again, this is a very, very short game / chapter. It took me 30 minutes to complete it, but I feel like it could easily be cut down in half now that I know how to play the game. Though what this chapter does well, that I feel like Garten of BanBan didn't execute too well, was the chase sequence. While Opila Bird showing up was a little off-putting, the chase sequence wasn't difficult. It was relatively easy, and I beat it first try. However, the Huggy Wuggy chase sequence was both mind-boggling, it got your heart racing, got the adrenaline pumping, and really made you wonder what was going to happen next. And it was not easy. I died a few times through it, and it was genuinely scary because you had to be quick. You could not make a single mistake, because if you made a single mistake, Huggy was more than likely gonna get you. And I made a couple mistakes. If you've watched that video already, and you already know, I made mistakes through that time, and it was fun. I enjoyed it. Now, which game do I prefer? Well, both games do certain things positive. I do like the grab pack in Poppy Playtime a lot more than I like the drone concept. I think Poppy Playtime does a lot better with the chase sequence, and I think Poppy Playtime also does a lot better with lore building, with why is Poppy in the case? Who's Experiment 1006? Why are there bloody toys around the toy factory? And also, why is there a giant Huggy Wuggy going around but is trying to kill you? And also seems to eat you. You can just tell by the razor sharp teeth. So what's going on there? The lore and everything for Poppy Playtime sets it up beautifully and makes you want to play Chapter 2 while you go through Garten of BanBan. The mechanics aren't great. It's a little bit lazier. It's a shorter, and there's not too much lore to dive into that keeps you hooked. So while each game has potential going to Chapter 2, I think Poppy Playtime has the edge towards the end of this one. Just by the fact that I feel like it really hooks you to do more. And I really am interested to see what happens with everything. So, we'll have to see who wins officially in the next video, as technically anything's up for grabs. I think both games could easily take over right here by who does better in their second chapters. Which, like I've said, that video will be going out on Saturday. So if you want to see the finale of this and see me go over both Chapter 2, which I'll be going a lot more in depth because these two chapters are a lot longer than Chapter 1 of these two games, make sure to hit that bell notification, as that video is going out on Saturday, so you get an immediate notification when this video goes out. And also make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and be ready for Saturday, because we're going to be doing a deep dive into Chapter 2 of Poppy Playtime and Garten of BanBan, and I will see you guys there. Bye-bye.